Would you like to meet someone who's a fairly big deal in the talk show world, who noticed what was going on in New York and has already moved himself, his family, to Texas with the multimedia empire, the multi-platform conservative heroism of my friend Glenn Beck, ladies and gentlemen.
How are y'all? Don, I hope this it doesn't do any damage here, but the last time I was here in this building, it was to listen to Mitt Romney speak, and that didn't work out too well. So, the reason why Mitt Romney didn't win is I think that the principles are askew, and we all saw that at the end. And this state, if we don't retain this state, and I don't mean as Republicans, I mean as people who understand the Constitution and understand what freedom and liberty means. If this state falls into the hands of progressives on either side of the aisle, we lose the Republic of America. And I moved down to Texas because I read a story in the paper, this is about 3 years ago, that in El Paso, you can't even teach the true history of the Alamo because it was racist. And I thought to myself, what version of the Alamo are you reading? They were standing up for the rights of the Mexicans. How is that at all racist? And I looked at one of my friends and my longtime partner on air, Pat Gray, and I said, I think it's about time we move down to Texas because we cannot lose Texas or the whole thing goes down the toilet. And so my friend Rand Paul called me a couple of days ago and said, I'm in town, would you mind coming and listening to a man I believe in? And so I'm here to listen just as much as you are, because we've got to change things here in Texas if we're going to change things in the country. Thanks.
That's Glenn Beck right there. Give him some love, and thank you, Glenn. God bless. Well, you know, if there's a theme that is gathering, that we are here to listen to Don and see exactly what his thoughts are as he stands on the brink of service in the Senate of the great state of Texas, I think now is a pretty good time to do that. The man we are here for, the man we will vote for, my friend Don Huffines!
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hey guys, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mark. Man, this is an unbelievable crowd. I've never seen so many freedom fighters. This is great. You know, thank you for coming out on this very cold evening tonight. And, you know, now I know how Jerry Jones felt at the Super Bowl. Are you guys ready to fight for liberty? Yeah. Are you ready to cut the chains of big government? Are you ready to cast out the most liberal Republican in Austin? Yeah. Are you ready to win this election? Yeah. So am I. You know, our state and our party are at a crossroads. We cannot tax and spend our way to prosperity and freedom. Governments don't create jobs. People do. We must empower the individual. I trust you to make the best decisions for yourself and your family. I have a vision of Texas that follows the true free market principles, which will guarantee unimaginable prosperity for our state. I have a vision of Texas composed of the most virtuous citizens on the entire Earth planet. There are 4 core issues I want to address in Austin. I want to get term limits passed. And I want it from the governor to the dog catcher. You know, I've never run for office before. I'm not running to get a new title. I'm not running to make money, and I'm not running to protect my business. I'm running to make sure Texas doesn't end up like California. I have also signed a no new tax pledge. I will not raise your taxes. We do not have a revenue problem in Austin. We have a spending problem. Your money belongs to you. It is your treasure from your fruits of your labor. It does not belong to the government. I will create all kinds of new jobs in Austin because I plan to eliminate the business tax, and I'm going to replace it with nothing. If we don't secure our borders, we will lose our country as we know it. I will work to fix the illegal immigration problem, and our first priority in fixing that is to make sure we have no sanctuary cities and no magnets that attract the illegal to Texas. Are you guys tired of traffic jams? I am. You know, Texas deserves the best highway system in America. We used to have the best highway system in America. Your state government has neglected our infrastructure for 2 decades. I will and have a plan to put billions of dollars back into our highways, to pour more concrete, and it's for free roads, not toll roads, and we do not need taxes to do it. You know, our children deserve the best education in America also, and they can have it. What we need to do is empower the parents and the families. We need to give them more choices, and they will be empowered. You know, the money needs to follow the student. The children belong to the parents. They don't belong to the government. Competition is what made America great. It lowers the price and increases the quality of everything it touches, and our education system is not an exception. Do you want Texas to be like California? No. Patriots, we must continue to persevere. Texas must be the lighthouse of economic prosperity, of personal freedom and liberty, not only for the United States, but for the entire world. Because if we lose Texas, we lose everything. You know, our struggle is not just against the Democrats. It's also within our own Republican Party. This election is an epic battle where is a clear choice between a principled conservative and a career politician who only looks out for himself and special interests. He is the most liberal Republican in Austin. This battlefield has been prepped. The victory is at hand. We must not falter. We must press it on. I will not compromise my faith in God, my constitutional convictions. I will not compromise my core beliefs in liberty. But I still need your help. The campaign needs your help. I'm going to issue everyone a call to action tonight to volunteer for this campaign. There are hundreds of people here tonight. I'm going to ask you to do something simple. Get 5 people to the polls beside yourself. Everyone can do that. It's easy to do, and if you do it, obviously we're going to have another 2,500 votes on Election Day. We will win. We will defeat the liberals if you can do this. You know, it doesn't take a lot of action to do it. The key is to have the perseverance and the initiative to follow through, to get those 5 people there. I need you to volunteer for this campaign. Listen, guys, I am in this race to win it. We will save Texas. With your help, victory is inevitable on March the 4th. And Patriots, please remember, Huffines has it.
Thank you. Thank you. I wondered if you were going to go there. God bless. We'll see in a few minutes. I wondered if he was going to go there because that's been wound around my brain for 20 years. And in fact, before we bring up our very, very special guest, a word or two about Don Huffines in my world. I've been hanging out with Don for years. If I'm showing up to MC something and there's some high-toned keynote speaker and 800 people in the room and some big dinner, chances are Don and Phil and Ray, they're in the room. If they're not there, something's wrong. It's like, where's Don? Because they have been, this family, and Don in particular, have been so wired into the Republican community and the conservative community, and not just for the sake of being Republicans, but before he even thought of running for actual public office himself. Don and the Huffines family have been about bringing the Republican Party back to the kind of steadfast conservatism that made it great and that can make it great again. So that's what's at stake. That's what is at stake. And if we are judged by who our friends are, this is a very good room. And I have many friends here, and I'm so proud, and to have Don as one of them, and every speaker we've had up here tonight. But I've had a gentleman who I've been a long-time fan of, well, a long time against the backdrop of politics. I mean, we've only really known about him. We've known about his family for a long time. We've known about his dad for a long time, and there is some love for the Constitution in that family, is there not? And as Congressman Ron Paul was doing the state of Texas proud, his son was helping people see better as an eye doctor in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Among his parents, my uncle and aunt, who as soon as he rose to prominence, my uncle said, "That's our eye doctor." Made me love him even more. But the reasons I love him most, day in and day out, are the kind of Republican that he is. Because joined by people like, ready for the cheap applause line, our own Ted Cruz. That's actually not a cheap applause line, it's a very worthy applause line. Because this gentleman and Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, and I'm afraid far too few people in the United States Senate are doing what we're looking to Don to do in the Texas Senate. Bring the Republican Party back to unapologetic, upbeat conservatism. And here to show up for Don, join me in welcoming the Honorable Senator Rand Paul. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. The Huffines family has always stood with the Paul family. I'm here tonight to tell you that the Paul family stands with Don Huffines. Now, I've got good news for you and bad news for you. Good news is your government's open. Bad news is your government's open. And still borrowing $1 million every minute. So in the next 120 minutes that I speak, $120 million just during my speech. It's crazy, it's out of control. So we said, well, we've got to do something. We've got to cut some spending. We had a big fight with the president. In 2011, he says, well, I won't negotiate. I won't negotiate with a gun to my head. And it's like, the hell, you won't even negotiate anytime, no matter what the circumstances are. But he did. He negotiated, and he came forward and he said, oh, well, we'll pass this thing called the sequester, these budget caps. Here's what spending does without the sequester. Here's what spending does with the sequester. Step in the right direction, but a very small step in the right direction. And as it happened, the president then said, woe is me, we could never cut spending. Where would we cut? The president said, we will have to fire the air traffic controllers. And I said, really? We have a $3.8 trillion government, and you're going to fire the air traffic controllers? That's the first thing you're going to do? He said, yeah, right after I closed down the White House, the self-guided White House tours. And then he said, if that weren't scary enough, he says, we're going to fire the meat inspectors. Really? There's no one else you could fire? 5 different agencies said, we're going to have to furlough people. We can never survive the sequester. Not one agency ever laid anybody off. You know what? When push comes to shove, they can find savings. In fact, I sent him a note. I sent him a note and said, look, there's $100 billion missing. $100 billion unaccounted for every year. They can't find it. They don't know where it was spent. It's gone. It was yours. It went to Washington, and it's lost. I tell people, don't send them any more money. They're not good with money, all right? You don't want them investing your money. The president now says that government spending is an investment. Anybody want to be part of that investment? So we survived the sequester, and we got to this thing, the shutdown. And the president, you know, everything was crazy. And you know how much of your government was shut down, by the way? 2/3 of your government's on autopilot. That's mandatory spending. That's the entitlement programs. 2/3 gone. So you have a remaining third. A half of that's military, and we immediately passed a bill to continue to fund the military. So we're talking about a half of a third. We're talking about a sixth of the government was closed, and we were trying to open it the whole time. So we go through this shutdown, and they send us a note, and they say, you have to lay off your workers that are unessential. You have to make a list of essential and unessential. So we made a list, and then we asked the EPA. They ask every agency to make a list. Do you know what the EPA reported? 95% unessential. I was like, maybe there's a lesson there. Maybe we should learn a lesson. 96% unessential. And that's 4% too many. So we went through and we got this list of essential, unessential. EPA 95% unessential. And so then they asked the question, hey, who's this guy over at the EPA? His name's Jonathan Beal. Has anybody seen him lately? No, he hadn't been to work in 6 months. Well, how come his performance reviews are always positive and he gets a raise? Well, he works for the CIA, is what he told his boss, for 11 years. Yes, he'd be sitting by the pool, I'm assuming, drinking a beer by the pool saying, yes, I'm in Istanbul. I'm working for the CIA. I won't be in for another 6 months. He did this for 11 years. And the president says we're going to have to lay off the air traffic controllers. Maybe we could have started with Jonathan Beal, who was faking being a CIA agent for 11 years. To make things worse, do you know what Jonathan Beal's expertise was in? Global warming. He was the right-hand man to the woman who's now in charge of the EPA for 11 years. Yes, you want an expert on global warming? Oh, that's right, he's on assignment in Istanbul. So we went through the shutdown. We found out all of this, and then it opened back up, and some people were unsure whether it was closed, and so the president said, we must do something to make sure the people know and that they are punished for this closure of government, and that Republicans are punished. So what did they do? They hired 100 government workers, paid them overtime for days to create a barricade in front of the World War II monument, which was paid for with private money, which has no gate, and which has nobody monitoring it. There is no cost to the World War II monument. I think even its upkeep is done through a private foundation. But by golly, he wanted you to suffer. But one of the best images, and if you want to remember an image of the shutdown, remember the World War II veterans getting off the bus with wire cutters, cutting the barricades, throwing them on the lawn at the White House. But sometimes I'm disappointed at where we're headed. So we had the sequester. It wasn't going to balance the budget, but it was going in the right direction. We had it for 2 years, and everybody complained. The Republicans complained, the Democrats complained. So we just got rid of it recently. You want compromise? You want us to sing Kumbaya, have a budget? Well, just any old budget's not worth it. We passed a budget now, the Ryan Murray budget. It gets rid of the sequester. Spending's going back up again, $60 billion in the next 2 years. And what is their argument, though? Their argument is, oh, in year 10 it balances out. Not balances. In year 10 it starts to begin saving some money. It's a fiction. We've never had a 10-year plan. Why are they talking about 10-year plans? Because they can pretend to give you something in year 10 that's never going to happen. So we go through this and we get rid of the sequester. So now spending's going back up again. And when I really get disappointed is when you look at some individual things. You can have a depressing day in Washington. One particular vote ought to depress you, scare you, cause you to work for Don Huffines, cause you to work for conservatives, cause you to work for better Republicans. And here's the one I'm going to tell you about. Twiggy the water skiing squirrel. Now, I like a funny animal story or video as much as anybody else, okay? I will watch funny things that animals do on the internet, and it's hilarious. Twiggy is a water skiing squirrel. But what's not so funny is you pay $3 million a year to Twiggy, I presume, or Twiggy's owner, to advertise walnuts in India. So they tried to cut this. They said, well, maybe we can't get to Social Security yet, but we're going to try to cut Twiggy the Squirrel's $3 million. It lost 320 to 90, with a majority of Republicans voting to preserve $3 million for Twiggy the Squirrel. And here's my point. It's not just the $3 million. You can't balance the budget on $3 million. But you damn well should start somewhere. But if you can't cut Twiggy the Squirrel, how are you going to ever look at Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and the enormous expenses that are very emotional and will require stamina and intestinal fortitude to tell the American people that we will destroy the country even for something that you want, that we can't keep doing it in a profligate manner? But if you cannot cut Twiggy the Squirrel, how are we ever getting out of this mess? But the battle is not over. What I would say is, you're out here, you're participating. Each of you equals 10 votes, if not 100 votes. Don will win only if you go out and you get 100 votes, each of you, for him. It can happen. I think he'll take more money too. Don, are you taking more money? Yes, he will take contributions as well. But go out and get votes. Don't give up on this. Let's fight for our republic. And when we fight, what I would say is we need to do it with optimism and with passion. We need to believe in what we believe in. Will the Republican Party be bigger and better if we dilute our message and we become Democrat-light? I think not. We need to proclaim our message with passion, boldly, with optimism. I'm reminded of the painter Robert Henry, who said to young painters, he said, "Paint like a man coming over the hill singing." When we proclaim our message like a man coming over the hill singing, then our message will win again. Thank you very much. Vote for Don Huffines.
That's Rand Paul, ladies and gentlemen, and here's Don Huffines, and I'm going to get out of the way and let you show some love to two genuine conservative heroes. Here we are.